Mumbo to Juju, one of the bottom Baba Pronon, Juju, Samsalo, Tapano, Chatavaja. Giving is only Roger Jojo, Chula, Sandalo, only Lamia, Lapata, the Shankadan, my only. Gendula, Dorian Judges, Leonardo, Baba, Chujagamo, Pamo, Bajar, and home. But you Lomon and Mo Conjo to the Jazzy, but then you're very bad and you come down to one already. Live your Lamaza and the Conjo from Jadani and the Hombe, Imadina. The brother get that I made you judge than how you go you one day, nothing that they change your Lama. Garchen Rinpoche Yangzab Dzogchen so that changing your job when Chimmy Dorjin Chong also the Moho, Kadachu number the world of the Dorji Guru on the Jelama. So Dorji Jablaso and the songs of Pacheco, Tamong Johnson, Sergeant Joseph Hazam, and the one. Tony Bemel Lenjada by your Satum Agenda Chiji, Yasome Boy, Gilazo, Semji Danja de Dangina, Tamba Chujan, the so. I don't try to remember the way. Try to say,
yeah, I read it if because the way it's written, I'm not sure how. What the question is, establish when I find a quiet place in myself from where I can follow the movements of my mind or the contents of my mind, like Namtos. The contest between the two creates something. What is it? Stillness, awareness, movement, thoughts at the same time. What that substance is that
still part and what is being seen creates substance of some kind. It creates something, the contrast between the part that's watching and the part that's moving. Like if I Buddha nature and then the mind of Nanda, there's something watching it and trying to maintain something here and watching the thoughts go by. Creates a vibration or something. I don't know what it is. Maybe I thought Rinpoche might know what it is.
This is given that more gom that kablasirwa. Ani same na damana mambochi shaudos. Ani damana dos it namto daw. Tani namto same pata de ya namto Rodia Jorba. Tiparo la Kayo Sigurda. Take Namto Yaman Rodigorba. And it's take Tando Majorba.
Tam Kiti, send Namton Tom Kiti, the Chudapo, Teran Sok on the do, Namto Gizu, Pamaro do, Namto, Kio, Coca, don't want to cook Casson, call York or Trasan and Miller. Tam Kiti, Panampo is a brony, my heads. And you don't that doesn't not only kick you, meeting with
Monks in a tiparot and a check that's it. It says that there are only two things. One is the mind. One is the mind, and the other is the namta. So one that's watching the namta is the mind or the awareness that sees the namta. Namto comes and goes. And there's nothing between these two. Either it is the mind that's watching the Namto or the Namto just moving around. Well, if you're talking about between the two thoughts, one thought just passed the future thought yet to arrive. If there is if you're experiencing a gap, and that is the present moment. Well, he says that he doesn't. Not aware of the something else rather than the mind and the namto. Maybe that's a new namto. Yeah. The nature of namto is the the self-manifest and the self-dissolving. It appears and disappears. And the mindful awareness is the same thing as mind. And Namto, for example, giving the example of a glass of water, which is kind of dirty, muddy. So if you keep this glass still, all these dirt particles will gradually sink down at the bottom. So it is separate from the Namto from the mind. And the point here is not to grasp at Namto, not to chase Namto, and just leave Namto as it is alone. Then Namto does not condition the mind. And Namto will not have the influence over mind, then which is fine. Do we need a good sense of humor to realize Dzogchen? Diriwa, Dzogchen tawa koya larwa, Dzogchen dogwar cheba larwa, ngakel chesagor ta ngakel chemo do gekho de gecho ro tagwa sem kuyangbo. Ti kuyangbo gurwes. Kuyangbo ti chensa do numda gekho de ngechik. Ta kanda semba kolo tobo on gejo marwa.
제가 남바 요래 변지 샘디 세 연락 현을 변디 나또 남바를 안 샘 나또 지선 트리플 지선을 기모하는 다 깨자랑에 책게 지선을 시게 요래 아 지선을 기모 저때 뭐 감사들이 인도 요라 이완도와 아 랑기 샘 이제는 쇼르기는 랑기 샘은 뭐 통리 몇만개 제모 게가 니 매인 잠다 가리케나 대답지 싸워 참 대답지 놈들한테 시이제도 되게 제모진을 제미지를 혈마 상화 아게 초차 가는 남도 지선 장마 상화들이 랑게 된 놈들 줘 봐줘 희나 세미진이 저와 초마 상화들이 독지기 줘 봐지 변나.
Yeah, he says there's a sense of humor in the sense that when things have only seeming existence and they don't truly exist, and yet we take them to exist, something inherently permanent, and that's called laughable.
이제 꿈치 놓지나 변데 찍바래. 오 뉴몬바도 똥바리데 나게 되는 진은 저바 효성 하하 이제 소지는 저 도지기 뭐 축성이라.
And Longchen Ramdang says he had what is called 13 Vajra laughters. That's one of them. However, he says, normally when you're practicing Dzogchen, if you're on the contemplation, and if you hear something funny, and if you start laughing, you're again grasping that namto. So in the Ngundo or the preliminary, there are two types of Ngundo, and Lama Taga had actually explained earlier more in detail. He said the important here lays in the first, for example, the four thoughts or the four reflection. And one should actually study this in a book if for something, when we say the precious human life or the rareness of the human life, how rare it is. So one has to thoroughly understand the human life. And having understood and looking up on a book and study thoroughly so that one is very familiar with it. And then to meditate on the same thought to gain some kind of a living experience of it, not just the intellectual apprehension of the definition of the words, rather the experiencing the true meaning of what this rareness is. In the same way, and the impermanent, nature of impermanent. And so one studies how it is impermanent. And when we say impermanent strikes, then we're talking about the life and the death. And so first one should do research, details in the book that covers it, and then actually meditate a day or two on just each one of these subjects. and then one can gain some experiential knowledge of it, rather than just intellectual understanding of it. And Hundo, which is translated as preliminary, is preliminary. And this is something one has to do it before the actual practices. And giving the example that all sentient beings are potential Buddha because having the Buddha nature. However, we do not realize that. And in order to realize that, we have to purify our mind. And by that we mean we have to either subdue our mental afflictions or afflictive thoughts, or to root it out or to eradicate. So having done that, then one is directly experiencing the nature of the mind. So in order to prepare that, you have to, Hundo is the means to purify or to get, to reduce the power of numb-talks.
Dili tena di dandi di chikpala, kato ku sanchuk san jie go gore, pena tongdam sanchuk san kuso dirchik nimbo yu na di meto ku sawen tawa re. Dili di saga nana chokla dili chua mena di sangwa di nyogo jie terki maya. Dili kato sanchuk san di chua tawa re.
So actually, in order to realize the ultimate bodhicitta, we have to cultivate the relative bodhicitta. And so if one is planting a seed, one also needs first having a fertile ground, then you put the seed and you add water to it. So the relative bodhicitta is the water that gives the life to the seed in order to grow a flower. And then it says, what prevents us actually cultivating a bodhicitta, relative bodhicitta, is our self-clinging, our ego, or the I, the illusory I. And illusory I, the moment one accepts the existence of an I, as if I exist by some kind of self-nature, and then the I creates the dualistic view, I and others. And within that, there is the attachment and aversion. So from these, one develops, likes and dislikes and all the chain of other afflictive emotions. Then also, because of the illusory I, and that self creates all the other afflictive emotions, and also our self is very attached to our body. And our body becomes a source of many suffering. And there's so many needs for the body to maintain that. So when we say someone is endowed with 18 qualities, we have to understand what these qualities are. And when we say how rare it is to be reborn as a human, at the same time we have to understand there are 16 different excuses not to use this human body as precious. And there are 16 excuses not to practice Dharma, because I'm busy, tomorrow I have to go to blah, 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 and I have another schedule. So if you keep postponing what is essential for the practice of the Dharma. So the other thing is by comparison to number, the number of human beings on planet Earth can be counted. And as we know, there are 6 billion. And compared to that, he said a number of ants, an anthill, is countless. And if you look in a bucket of water from swamp, there are countless microorganisms. So compared to those things, just to mention just few species. But if you think of the whole entire universe, how many habitats, how many sentient beings in just planet Earth itself, and not to mention 6 different realms or 3 realms. So if you look at that from the comparatively just on the numbers, humans are very small population compared to all the other species. So if the population of all the other sentient beings is compared to that of the ocean, human population is only a plank of wood floating somewhere in the ocean. So the number of species in the ocean are just countless. And at the same time, these sentient beings are very ignorant. And these are being described as a blind frog. If there is a blind frog is a turtle actually, turtle that comes up very seldom to the surface of the ocean, what would be the chances for this turtle to come up and getting his head stuck in the a floating plywood or plank that has a little hole the size of his head? He says that's because ocean is so vast, and just for one turtle accidentally getting his head stuck in this small plank of wood. So the example says that not only this turtle comes up and getting his head stuck in the plank, but the turtle comes up only once in every 100 years. So this also compares to how difficult it is in terms of time and how long a turtle has to remain. Then there are other so the turtle is compared to that of the sentient beings caught in the 3 lower realms. But for example, if you're born as a human being, and still then, what opportunities a human being would have? Because there are so many things that prevent from really actually being endowed with the 18 qualities. If somebody is a handicap, and if somebody has a total wrong view, or if someone was born when there was no Buddha, or someone is born where there's no teaching available. So if you think of those, then the numbers are decreasing. So for example, if you're born in the realm of gods, there's no opportunity to practice Dharma at all. So if you meditate on the meaning of this 18 leisures and endowment, not only just to have sort of the 18 numbers stuck in your head, rather you actually meditate on each of these and identify each of these 18 qualities and then contemplate or meditate on it. And then you get some really true sense of what it means. So, for example, of the 10, precious human life, and a place where there's Dharma is available. And one who hasn't committed what do you call heinous, yeah. And also having unwavering faith in the 3 jewels. So that is the 5 personal endowment, and then 5 endowment that comes from the others. And Buddha had to come, and Buddha gave teaching, and the Buddha that has taught the Dharma, and Dharma is still preserved. And following the teaching, so that is the 5 other conditions. So in this case, so these are also called the external of the 5 support. That is, the Buddha was there, he gave teaching continues, being preserved, and then the disciples who follow the path of the Buddha to practice it, and having great faith in the triple jump. So he says, if one is fully endorsed with these 18 wonderful, remarkable qualities, if one doesn't use these qualities, then it's a terrible mistake. He says, if somebody has a chunk of gold nugget and trade it for a cup of drink, that would be a terrible mistake. So he says, you are, those of us who are here, Rinpoche says, fully endowed with the 18 qualities, and also you're practicing the Dharma. Rinpoche says that he knows that you're real practicing. So even though you're practicing, but in the future, if you don't practice diligently, what you have now is very difficult to obtain again once you lose it. So not only the Buddha has come and taught the Dharma that is readily available for us, however, we also have this very profound secret mantrayana, which is coming from the Buddha Samantabhadara, or the Buddha of infinite goodness. To practice the secret Vajrayana, not just for the sake of self sort of enlightenment, but rather for the benefit of all sentient beings. As this body with the leisure and favorable conditions will be difficult to obtain repeatedly in the future, I will accomplish now the state of supreme Samantabhadara and the work for the welfare of others. Also, it is uncertain when the Buddha of death or Lord of death, the dreaded Yama, will come to take this present human body. And if you look in the 37 practices, it says that the first chapter. So it says that I will practice diligently and without wasting a minute, because this is such a remarkably precious, and that I would not waste even a second. So people say dumb things like, look how many people in China and how many people in India, there's so many. Why is it so difficult to be reborn as a human? That is not really counting just how many ants are there in an anthill. There's no sense of comparison. And this is like if you're in a parking lot, in a large parking lot in the United States, one would assume that all the cars in the United States didn't park on one parking lot. If you go on a highway, it looks like everybody in America going in one direction. So this is a rather stupid assumption. So he says that you can see how actually humans suffer even worse than some of the animals. And that is because of our negative emotion or the afflictive thoughts. So he says, if you one really understand what we mean by fully indulged with these 18 qualities, then one has to really work hard. And furthermore, he said before that that to take each word, to really meditate and to accustom oneself to the true meaning of what really means, and then to familiarize and to repeatedly remind oneself that this is something precious, and tell you it's just intellectually understanding all these 18 qualities are wonderful, but if you see it as such a wonderful, then one should actually respond to it and to do what it takes to fully use these qualities. If you lead your mind to become a slave for your body, then when you die, you have nothing to take with you except the propensities you have accumulated. So you should have a nice talk with your body, the mind and body. Have a good meeting, a good discussion. And says, you know, so you tell your body and said, you know, we will feed you, we will make you some money and bring some food, nice clothes, but also give me something to take with me, which is a merit. So this way, the body can be very supportive, because the human body, as we know, when we call it precious human life, this is the means to attain enlightenment. So the nature of the impermanent is rather mysterious and very unpredictable, and you never know when it strikes. Also, it is uncertain when the Lord of Death, the dreaded Yama, will come to take this present human body. In this way, I will regard myself and others as impermanent, since there is no opportunity for happiness wherever one is born in the cyclic existence, and no pleasure can be found, I will enter the path that transcends suffering. And 37 practice of Bodhisattva, it is the number 4. So in this case, first you understand what is the impermanent, and then you read number 4, or says, you know, what it says, and then to truly understand and truly take it very seriously, not lightly. So when Atisha was asked, what is the really best, you know, thing to contemplate on? And he says, impermanent, because impermanence makes you to take interest in the Dharma in the beginning. In the middle, impermanent, because you never know when it strikes, so therefore you take more seriously to practice. And at the end, it is the impermanent that pushes you to do what it takes to have the realization.
Ta karsin chwa amata ba songna ta kariri tan di dongzi je ba de shen de ru ka chu shen na ga ro du ma shen ta chu kari le ge o ta nga ge ta lang ge chen do kan do do che che nang ta mo me na chok ba ja ke yo ta pe na go di me ge cho nga ke du ko do ti ta do le chu kari le shen de ru ge ni song do nga na de ko le jen do ta pe song do chu ni song song na do ji jo khona do do de rang kari do ta ji na. So
if you look at the number 8 in your yellow book, one should really self-examine what it is that you're really doing. Then you find out that you're really actually knowingly and unknowingly and intentionally and unintentionally you're engaging in the 10 non-virtues. And if one is doing that, then one is bound to be reborn in either of the 3 lower realms. So if you carefully examine yourself, what kind of negative emotion is strongest in oneself, then you can pretty much tell which of the three lower realms you're going to be reborn. If you have tremendous anger, you will be born in hell. And if you have tremendous ignorance, you'll be born in animal realm. And if you have a lot of miserliness, you'll be born in the hungry ghost realm. So one can tell which is the strongest emotion and how it conditions your life or conditions the mind. The attachment and miserliness in union, because they're almost the same. Because of attachment, you say, this is my flower. And because it belongs to the illusory I, me, my flower, therefore I hesitate to give it to somebody else. And that is miserliness. So they go hand in hand. So the anger and attachment and the ignorance are known to be the worst of the three poisons. And those are the three causes for to be born in the three lower realms. Even in Tibet, there are a lot of people would go to see lamas and ask, please Rinpoche, tell me where will I be born, in what realm? And Rinpoche says, you don't have to ask anybody. You ask yourself which strongest emotion you have, and from that you can determine which place you will be going. And Rinpoche says from his personal experience, when he was very young, he used to have a tremendous anger. And he used to dream always in fighting with other people. So he said now, at least in the last 10 years, he had not even the slightest dream. And he says, I have not much anger either, except whenever Punyaman Abu caused him, a little bit of irritation. He says he doesn't cause you any irritation because he's like a little cat, very, very careful not to stepping on somebody else's foot. If you really have the anger is something you really have to seriously look at and be really concerned, Rinpoche says, because it can really take you down. And it is the anger that creates your enemies. In the absence of anger, everybody becomes friends. So anger is very dangerous poison. And he says, for example, if you're practicing Dzogchen, you can turn everybody deities. If you lead the anger control you, everybody becomes your enemy.
Yeah. Pena tata pama matang pugupar padang pugupala only razo ya paging de hedang chimona churanga doma rang thongma ri deore ta pugu ching nang nang pala ngor chik te ta royori pal me pugu ngala ga ma do ta den je yo be de ranga doma dom so thongno ri bi jeng 미삼마 셰거리 싫어 다 콩을 가면도 doktor 따라서 니요 말하면 배나 수비도 해당해서.
So he says when people have anger, the facial expression changes. You know somebody has very angry face. So if a father is very angry person and has this very angry looking face, when his kid comes home, see that anger and the kids avoid it, and he walks out of the door. And the further not realizing that his anger is already manifested on his face and also threatened, the child. So father simply thinks, even my son doesn't like me, Instead of understanding that his anger is forcing others to run away from him. But angry person doesn't realize that. Again, in the number 20 in your yellow book. So if one has a truly loving kindness and compassion, then you can actually calm down with people who are very angry, or people who have tremendous anger. In the first approach, they may not work. He said he may be still, but if you say, don't be mad, don't be angry all the time, this is very harmful. And if you say a few times, then eventually he realizes that he or she is really causing problems others, and that anger becomes very obvious, that anybody understands when one is angry. So one becomes very self-conscious, and sometimes they feel ashamed of it. So according to the Sakchen or Dzogchen, or the Mahamudra and Great Perfection, that every sentient being is a potential Buddha because of our very true condition is that of Buddha nature. However, because due to incidental and accidental phenomena that our afflictive emotions have taken over, and therefore mind has lost its control over our negative emotions. So according to Guru Rinpoche, it says, do not grasp onto sound or appearances or feelings and namthought. Because the moment you're grasping onto, and then all the dualistic view being created, and then attachment and aversion and all the other sets of 5 poisons will immediately merge. One examines one's negative emotions, and if you find a lot of them, then you will figure out that you're going to hang around in samsara for a while. Doesn't matter which realm it is. In this way, I will regard myself and others as impermanent. Since there is no opportunity for happiness wherever one is born in the cyclic existence, and no pleasure can be found, I will enter the path that transcends suffering. So one has to diligently work to purify our mind of the negative thoughts or the mental afflictions, because the mental affliction is what conditions our life, and it threatens our Buddha nature. So therefore, in order to free ourselves, we have to work on ourselves diligently to subdue our negative emotion. So, in the practice of Mundo is really a method or means by which we establish or cultivate relative bodhicitta. And relative bodhicitta helps to ultimately cultivate ultimate bodhicitta. And bodhicitta is another method by which we can eliminate the self-clinging or the ego clinging. Because ego clinging is a sort of like ice cube, Rinpoche says. Now, if you have the bodhicitta, which we must cultivate and generate, it's like a warm water. So if you drop the ice cube, then it will slowly melt. So in the same way, by loving kindness and compassion, you can gain some warmth. So that warmness, or the warmth, can slowly melt away that frozen state of the mind, which is the negative emotion. In order to make meaningful use of this body, with leisure and favorable conditions, I will abandon non-virtue and disturbing emotions of the 3 poisons, and develop diligence in virtuous actions, protecting the vows, and commitments of the three doors. So in order to protect the commitment of the three doors, which is, it says, it refers to the number 5 in your yellow book. So here it says you have to take protection or refuge in the three jewels. Buddha is the, in this context of three jewels, the Buddha Sakyamuni, the historical Buddha is the Buddha referred to as, and the Dharma refers to the 84,000 method or teaching given by Buddha, as well as the Hinayana, Mahayana, and Vajrayana. So in the Tibetan, when the refuge is called Chamdo. Chap means actually protecting. And in this case, protecting the Buddha nature from the harmful elements of afflictive emotions. So if understood in the correct content or context, the Buddha and Dhamma Sangha, Sangha is most important, because even though Buddha has taught Dharma, but it is from the Sangha we take teachings. So if you look in yourself after taking all the teachings and empowerment and the oral transmissions and the receiving the quintessential or the path instructions for you to practice, then you yourself you yourself become the three jewels. You as a human being with all the teachings become Sangha, and your practice of Dharma is Dharma, and your essence of your mind, or the true nature of your mind, is that of the Buddha.
Tena sosora mewa de kare, ta samnyingje mewa re, ole sosora samnyingje tsewa ze yori tena danji ge tsewa lan jona tena chungni jode re, chakpadang shimbe joren jondo yore, ole rangi chakpada shimba yo sa tena tsewa yori, tela tena maga jene yang shedang lan jondo re, ole lo chonga ni shele nyamde tena rangi tsewa chibo jene, yang nimachule te tsewa de kasang shedang lan jondo tena sosi gyule tsewa de yowa te sepjini tamche pe je machine tena chungni jondo yore.
So what we have is we are represented, or we are rather representing the Sangha and the Buddha and the Dharma. However, what is lacking within us is bodhicitta, relative bodhicitta. And the basis for relative bodhicitta is loving kindness and compassion. And the loving kindness and compassion we have is very, very limited. And whatever we have is also used as a spotlighting. You spotlight your loving kindness to only particular people, people who are close to you. And not in the sense of, beaming like the sunlight, to all 10 directions, just indiscriminating. But we're always favoring somebody. So that is why we need to cultivate the relative bodhicitta and generate more and more. So when you take a refugee, you're introduced.
Chulu dungi gowa mewe anga dungi mugo tena danji ni ko te mewa tongo re te mewe tap kari che go o te mewe to ta yinpi lo tamje phama ba muni de ngo te ta chu tamje le samni ji gongo re.
So you're introduced to the method by which one can attain happiness and avoid suffering. And how does one do? The loving kindness, compassion is means or cause for happiness. And the cause of suffering is negative emotion. And the negative emotion is caused by self-clinging or caused by the illusory I. So usually if you're told to be kind, to be gentle, to be loving, people find that quite difficult. It's not easy as it seems. And people still have tendency to choose to love few and hate as many as one wants. But if you're told the more you love, the more people, ultimately, the happier you're going to be. So your happiness, future happiness, actually depends on the amount of bodhicitta you generate. We got a question. I have stability in recognition for half an hour or more at times, and now in ordinary conversations, there are times I am recognizing the nature of mind, and I'm talking, then no words or thoughts arise, just open recognition. Other times words get mixed up while I am recognizing. Is this something that usually happens at this point, or am I just getting old and having probably just kidding, having relapses in my memory? This is said dam la mong ta sem te thu dos sem ne thu dos dam sem ne thu dos chu chekas and sem ne thu dos ani ang dam ke je he de tam kharu cha gore su sem ni thong ni da dos dam sem ngo sing ni da dos 아니 강간 대송년다 진 드린데 말이스 마신 바시
다티 참참 하고 이유는 변는데 디가미야 어 들가지요 말이 참참 대서 마살리우나 디가니 아르바탄 설치에 니 르네상 잡마키 르네데 상도 같이 잡모지 들바 타승지 당차 좋은데 요 대체네 쌀, 몇살 다 레 말에 똑똑히 동야요 말에 곰줘보가니 레나 레 말에나 말에 그 강종의 대종주 파 용내더니 진실 싸우 코라 송종의 도건에 비는 니 보고 막 보지 못해우나 부심을 파 영야요 말에 말로라 송종의 진실이나 송종대 있잖아 이제 쌀나 몇살 다리 쌀 말이 싸움요 말에 진 참선 남도 매버셈 원래 참아 소리 되어 디 미니티래 오 단데 가리는 데 똑똑 맞다 디 가리 생고 통고요 원래 이제 디 진시 종아 마고 나쇼지 탐지 통디와 뭐 동성이 내 로는 좀 봐매요 디 감자 생고 통고요
So
단데 생고 리상들이 나로라.
So when you're gaining stability, also seeing nature of mind, and then one shouldn't actually analyze. The moment you feel that you are in the nature of the mind, and you say, I am now in the nature of the mind, then you create another namthok. So when you're in a state, or the present moment, there's nothing need to be added or nothing to be discarded, or nothing need to be modified. If you just leave them as it is, as they are, the point of meditation of which says seeing the mind, its true nature or true condition, and just looking at it, just observing, remaining in that state, uncontrived, natural, unfabricated state of the mind. And there you don't need to do anything. So when you're listening to the Dharma teaching, whatever you understand it, you keep them, you just digest them. And whatever you don't understand, then don't try to make anything out of it. I had an experience of standing in the dining room where I felt myself relax more deeply into my solar plex? Yeah, solar plex. And it felt like I was on roller skate. My view suddenly receded or went back. I did not feel attached. Did not feel attached to the surrounding activities in the usual way, but I was much more relaxed. How does this experience relate to Dzogchen? that's a hakum. More check Yamnang of Shangus Rinpoche. But it is not a Samasa Sagarwa. Then if I Lulu, she would choose him. Lebo.
Dear Shooting Yamdam Shana, Yamdam Shadi, the Kanchana, the Haman with the Judochin in my ye. Namkari Charlotte, Yaga Sharon, Kori Goyo, Kori Magalan Ramada, Tama Yabu, the Yokore, Zantora, Macha, Nitor, Madanzi. Did you know that the Judicasi?
So he says, whatever experiences one may have, don't interfere, don't try to modify, don't try to analyze. See as they are, as they appear. And when you feel relaxed, that means this meditation sometimes said, let the mind relax in its uncontrived natural place. So that is good. If you're relaxed, if you're calm, relaxed, and in that calmness, in that relaxation, if you have this lucidity or luminosity or something very clear, then you remain there and without trying to or change or without questioning what it is, without comparing. As Dzogchen Rinpoche, the author of Buddha, My Perfect Teacher, says, your body must be on your on your cushion. Your mind must be in your body, and there must be total relaxation. And in the meditation, first you stay alert, and then you relax, and then more alert, then relax. Because if you're too uptight or too alert, a lot of thoughts will come. If you're too loose, too relaxed, you fall asleep. It's the same thing as when you're playing a music instrument. If the strings are too tight or too loose, you don't get the right tune. What is the relation between emptiness and the clear light? Emptiness is an absence of something. Is clear light a presence? And is clear light empty? Or ultimate, or is ultimate reality? Tanda Tony Yorwala. Tony tanda sarwa singi yorwa yang.
Sarta.
Osar. Osar. Tony tang osar ni pal chepa che yores. Derba ka yores go. Ah. Red o tongwa ta rangi sarwa singi.
Ri, 오동바데 참마라 요래 생동바 요래데 생무만 통 라비사와 요마래 라비사와데는 라 생무만 통 살라메 되니 생고 동성이 동봉고 싸와고 동바 되는 예물시 바래면에 생무만 통 싸위 차데 요마래 배나 남시리 다 남시리 디고데 배 남시가 자가 용도면 냐는 용도면 데리면에 랑오랑 싸와데 요마래 고마시나.
So it should be considered as a two rather than the aspect of mind. The aspect of mind has the emptiness, and emptiness has the clarity, and the clarity has the nature of emptiness, and these are not two separate entities. So if one doesn't have the proper meditation, then that clear light is not there. So there's even though if there's no namtao or mental movement, if there's no clarity or clear light, then you're not in the nature of emptiness. You're not really seeing with the clarity. So when you say emptiness, does not mean a lack of something. Empty of conceptual thought. It does not mean a nothingness or absence of something. The empty of conceptual thought, yet there is a clarity that comprehends everything as it is. The proper meditation is not thinking there is something or there is nothing. it's just remaining. It is neither non-existent nor existent. So if you're beyond the extreme of existence and the non-existent, then you're doing the proper meditation. So one should remain without fixation or without grasping on anything, whether there is or there is not. So those are fixations, those are grasping. Could you please describe the experience of all accomplishing wisdom? This you said. The tamchen chen basing jirola.
Re. Tamchen chen bi sharab de sanji ta pen thuk ti pen di ta rang sem won thong na. O tin sem din na kwe ka char ma chap sam me ba chap ro yori. Tin konde tamchi sanji ge thuk chap de yori pen. Tin konde ne lo de rang sem gun ne yo de rang chok ye pe de na gi tin sanji ge ram jong gun ching ge yori me long ne ge zum hi da wen ching ge yori. 그 산지 탐지 집에 내게 친구는 내게 친구인데 산이 랑게 또는 대주하고 그러면 다다 맹다지 망보여 이렇게 다다 대주도요 말 탐지 집에 이런 거 생분들 봐 맨날 랑게 생분 가든 통나 디감이 상에 다다 콘데니가 지그리 상에 하고 드니 양대양도 하고 그러면 근데 탐지 집에 싫어로 망보여 이렇게 xeba mangbo top to me jiwa ye sanji yong di pe mangbo xeba yo de 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 pa ju do dang ju yo ma le.
So he says there are endless explanation and description of the all-completion wisdom, and there's not much really point to describe that because one has to actually realize it. Once having realized, you may not have words to describe because no one has ever found any perfect word that explains it. So this realization transcends all intellectual understanding. And also this can be said also like a Buddha has reached a state of a mind where the mind becomes like that of the infinity of the space, in which his wisdom permeates everything that within the space, or sometimes call it the state of all-knowing. And there's no limitation to that knowledge, and it's inexpressible and indescribable. Because it's not something that can be seen and something can be understood through words. The Buddha's wisdom, or the state of all-knowing, or accomplishing wisdom, can be compared to that of the heat of the sunlight. When the sunlight comes, all the dewdrops on the grass automatically evaporate. So it's more like its power to evaporate all the negative emotions. But it can't be explained. No matter how great scholar and how educated or how wise one is, there's no way to describe the wisdom of Buddha. So, for example, an ordinary sentient being have no way of eliminating the illusory I or mental afflictions. It is true only in the wisdom of Buddha, having introduced 84,000 method, and also having introduced the means and the method to transform 6 poisons into six wisdoms. So one can give examples like this, but one can't really define or describe the Buddha's wisdom.
Tenita Gosum Tam take Domba song. Tenita the Jamdu Domba, the Jabro the Zone and Jabro the Zone and the controller. They pass them the Yogre, Tamatepa, Tamatepa, Unchosum, Yun, the young on the Lomle, or Kova Dungi jump for Garakawandi, Dungi the tablet, Jammy Control Sanji Mato, such a carapena, Dr. Gumdu, some little control the Sondardino Mambo, 오조 용디 유저 배차 탐제 로는 방법이 되는 등등 배차 방법이 대로 대삽장 어래 들이 탑대 강의들이 다 답이 추래 어래 차과다 잡아는 저 추리 잡는 저 이제 스바가 대화는 마찬가지 수직이 요 말이야 어래 말아리 배송에 내용은 시사에 뭐 뽕와시 나대도 20번 라탐질라 내용은 주바 풀게 요래 네 얘는 다음에 주 용딩 시선 오 내로 시선아 아 스바디 능이 시선 오 지금 감전 내용 탐지 강 자원배 차는 거래 원래 변나 어래 변나 고바가 능이 통소나 스바디와 탐지 올해 인출 나무니 앞에는 서버대와라 잡아요 말봐 호 고바 등이라지 대와다 등이 시합직 다가요 우리 고주 등이메 때는 다다 대와래 디 잠이 등이 대와다 등이 지나 등이 껴 담아는 대와 찍마 보면 되고 드리테는 시합게 게네 박주 시합고 땅에 고발 해봐도 돼
So in order to understand the wisdom of Buddha and all the qualities of different aspects of the Buddha, one has to do a lot of research and read many of the books available that really appraises, the Buddha. And also, to understand Dharma, one has to actually study the Dharma and study the method, and then contemplate their meanings to get a sort of more living experience of those teachings of Dharma. So if one understands the way of Dharma, then one is not attached to any worldly pleasures or temporary happiness. In a samsara, all sentient beings try to achieve happiness, and much of what one does end up creating more suffering. So therefore, understanding the Dharma and its true context, and at the same time knowing, for example, when we say often reflecting on four thoughts, that means not just having the intellectual apprehension of what it is, or just knowing the words, but when you're contemplating on it, on the meaning, then that meaning or the realization makes the person not even to waste a single minute. If one hasn't understood that, then one hasn't understood what is meant by impermanence.
대단한 특별 총무님 용으로와 문의 사족성을 로지성을 다다다 스바라 먼저르지는 사지 문의 사족성만 스바라 잡아요 말이야. 시와는 문에도 가 등이 찍적 미리 차손을 샘기 담지 등이 말어봐도 니 성성은 냠든 로고는 해 강이 강양해지. 샘기 담지는 록 샘기 냠든 되는 사족성 봐도 무슨 패브를 냐와는 냐베서 이다 좀 로아로 소수족기는 산지 샘기 좋은 제기 오래 대통령 물람는 게마도 오래.
So for a bodhisattva who sees the nature of all phenomena as that of like a dream or mirage, and has no reason to be attached to it. And at the same time, because the whole nature of samsara is defined as the ocean of suffering, and for that reason all the sentient beings stuck in this ocean of suffering, bodhisattva wouldn't hesitate to go and suffer the sufferings of all sentient beings for himself or herself as a bodhisattva. So when we say it's a bodhisattva is a conscious agent who wouldn't hesitate to do anything for the benefit of sentient beings. And likewise, Rinpoche was also referring to like Sanchu Shamba or like the Dalai Lama, who works day and night for the benefit of greater number of people or sentient beings, and wouldn't hesitate to shoulder any responsibility. And that is the definition of Bodhisattva, as the one who has no fear of going to even the six realms, even hell, to experience the suffering of all sentient beings. And by realizing the nature and the cause and the intensity of the suffering of all sentient beings, one's own suffering may seem only a spark of a fire. And Bodhisattva says that the sentient beings are as vast as the space itself, and one commit oneself to work for the benefit and for the liberation of all sentient beings, and until every one of the sentient beings is liberated, a Bodhisattva continues to work for the benefit of these sentient beings. Until the whole samsara is empty. So to liberate all sentient beings is not something impossible, because all sentient beings are potential Buddhas anyway. They themselves have a Buddha nature. So just little help is needed. The Buddha is the one who will protect sentient beings, and his method that he showed is the Dharma, and that is the path. And the Sanghas are the people who help sentient beings to realize their own Buddha nature.
Trite Tamrola, Tamo Sanji Judan, Gedrin, Japson George. Trinicare, oh. Tawa Gomba Jobas on the Japan, Nama Sanji Congress or Tawa Chikori. Tawa Kariri, Man Namkadanya be simply on the Pama Maziva Chikan, May Sani Taware. They don't come to legendary Loa Mebare, they don't go out and new Mubares, or the legendary Ichi, the Taware.
So there's the view and the meditation or action and conduct. So the view is that all the sentient beings are seen as our mother sentient beings. And the meditation or the action would be to cultivate bodhicitta and to generate and to increase ever and ever increasing bodhicitta. So if you have the cultivated and generated bodhicitta, then one's own conduct will be in accordance with the bodhicitta, and therefore one is able to apply six perfections at all the time in whatever one does. He says that he has told repeatedly for years and years, just taking care of your own child, all the six perfections can be applied. So within a family, with two people, a couple, you have every situation, every opportunity to practice six paramitas, to be really a practical practitioner. If you apply six perfections at home, you don't need to go anywhere else, and that is the best practice. Being mindful of everything and applying six perfections at all the time.
Really, Dam. Similar Lama,
so in the practice of Vajrayana, one uses the mind.
Same Lama.
Mind is the Lama, represent the Lama, and mantra represent Dakinis. The body is the yidam, the mind is the lama, and the mantra, recitation of the mantra is dakini in the practice. If one truly understands the true condition of the mind, then one doesn't need to do this generation and completing stage where we need to visualize all different deities and yidams. But if one doesn't see the true condition, then there's a need to substitute, so that instead of following namto, we create namto in the form of deities. And with that help, we're able to see the 5 poisons as 5 pristine awareness or wisdoms.
Tini namsa lang tatokon jewa, tangkon shoke lama chuba kambi je gyoli lakor tokpar sanjera, sokto longa tokpar sanjera, semni chuka tokpar sanjera, jewa na tato kusun, sem chuka, lu truka, ole, nga ta longa, jewa te tok yore, nga la tini longa, lu la tini truka, sem te chuka, kusun.
So the fruit of this practice would be the of the 3 kayas. Dhammakaya being the mind, and the mantra or the recitation or the song being the Sambhogakaya, and the body would be the Namanikaya. So you will find the visualization as pictured as it is here. You may find many different kinds of deities or number of deities, but one should understand that the essence of all the deities are exactly same and one. So those who wish to actually to undertake the practices, and then later on Lama Taga will have to explain this, the step by step for the different stages of the practice. If you do the 100,000 prostrations, and what you should gain from it is that you have the total confidence of the protection of the Buddha, and in such a that if you're about to fall, instead of thinking anything else, you would mention the name of the Buddha, or you would have the thought of the Buddha rather than anything else. So the purpose of the offering of the mandala is to exhaust all the karmic propensities that are accumulated for countless lifetimes, and to purify this, and to gain total confidence, and to eliminate the self-clinging or the ego clinging.
Teni dorje sambe yege jaba ta chasari ja de jungtar zuponde ore rabna jathon nagi temna rehok pongba resop khoma nagi sanangyan de de or kangyam me ba de de rehok pongba nagi de de to ore de dorje sambe gonde de ta ko cha ja na babu pa ta jo budin ta pen zuponde me wa nagi pe asa jathon nagi pe na ko.
So when you're meditating on Vajradhara and receiving nectar through your crown of your head, and then the nectar saturate all your body in cleansing, and then as a result for that, either you should feel that your body is nothing of a flesh or bone, rather than has like a rainbow body, or at least if you can't visualize a sort of a rainbow, more like he says it's like a bag of cloth, very thin and very transparent, and nothing inside or outside in terms of substance, like an empty bag. So when you're doing the Guru Yoga, this is the external Lama, which is what you visualize above your head, and the inner Lama is your mindful awareness, is your inner Lama. So other teachings can be taught by Lama Punyama and Abo, and they come with the little sticks.
Nyawar cheda ta nyawar ja dongurwa ta konde to ma me ta je ja ke chro dongriya ta ti zo pa gongure na nyawar chedu to ha gongurwa asateri da azandi hundu ta parche tendri de yebe sani tagara mo chega songo yore ta ta nguni bena sa person o ta jamne control ne ji pa de tipo cha gore meda the person sama ngala chi yo sam ngi sam jo popo mo ne ngi sam ti lo de me wa ngi cha gore ti ki chi mo re.
So the more details will be taught by Lama Taga for those who actually undertake the practice or going on a retreat. And but he says the important thing is that in the offering for mandala, one shouldn't have any sense of possession, that everything belongs to the triple germs, including one's children and spouses and house, everything that is there. So there's no such a thing as mine, or there's no such a thing as an I. Yes. Om